A little boy gets a present from mommy and daddy, a big teddy bear named Precious. John, the boy, loved it. He would hug it all day and until he would fall asleep. He would hug it when they were going to the mall and even would hug it when mommy and daddy are screaming and fighting with each other. Precious would always be there for him. Well, did you have a Precious when you were little? A Precious to hold you when you would hide your choke sobs, crying, or a Precious to heal you when no one else did. A Precious to promise you that everything would be okay. Because I did, and sadly, a lot of kids today also had little Precious of their own. We shouldn't have a teddy bear to comfort us when we are at our lowest. In reality, we should have had mommy and daddy. Why? Let me tell you why. Parents don't really realize how damaging their parenting style is. It could be as simple as prioritizing a phone call with a local marites or friend instead of paying attention to your little's drawing, ignoring their cries, or criticizing a child's body and actions. These are examples of abuse and neglect within the family. Four types of abuse are neglect, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, according to the study we made months ago. 4.2 million children experience violence reach with related services, 126 countries plus 54%. Abuse and neglect can have a wide range of negative outcomes for children and adolescents. Child abuse and neglect are defined as any behavior by parents, carers, other adults, and older adolescents that deviates from social norms and has a significant danger of causing bodily or emotional harm to a child or a young person. Now, this abuse turns into childhood trauma. Wait, what is trauma, you say? Trauma is, by Google definition, a deeply distressing or disturbing experience, and this trauma heavily affects brain development. You see, brain development starts with our earliest forms of relationships. Long term abuse plays a part in child development. A traumatic event is one that is frightening, dangerous, or violent and endangers a child's life or bodily integrity. Having witnessed a traumatic event that threatens a loved one's life or physical security can also be traumatic. This is especially important for young children whose sense of safety is based on their attachment figures' perceived safety. Traumatic events can elicit strong emotions and physical reactions that can last for a long time after the event. Terror, helplessness, or fear may be felt by children, as well as physiological responses such as heart palpitations, vomiting, or loss of bowel or bladder control. Children who are unable to protect themselves or who lack protection from others in order to avoid the consequences of a traumatic incident may feel overwhelmed by the intensity of physical and emotional responses. Even when adults work hard to keep the children safe, dangerous events occur. This threat can come from the outside, like such as natural disasters, car accidents, school shootings, or community violence, or from within the family, domestic violence, physical or sexual abuse, or the untimely death of a loved one. All future development is built on the foundation of brain development in infancy and early childhood. The formation of neural pathways occurs quickly and is dependent on the repetition of experiences. The brain learns what to expect and how to respond to experiences. When traumatic experiences occur, the pathways that are used the most are that they're used to respond to trauma. This reduces the formation of other pathways that are needed for adaptive behavior. Early childhood trauma can cause attachment problems, cognitive delays, and emotional regulation issues. Furthermore, overdevelopment of some pathways and underdevelopment of others can result in impairment later in life. By the age of 3, the brain has grown to almost 80% of its adult size. At the age of 5, it has grown to 90% of its adult size. Although this raises the stakes of intervention, it's also important to remember that the brain is most classic in infancy and early childhood, which means there's the most room for change. This is both why early childhood trauma can be so devastating, as well why there is a window of opportunity for interventions that can positively alter the brain. Trauma's impact at this age is also determined by when it occurs. The impact on overall, overall functioning is greater if trauma continues into the school age years from early childhood. There is some evidence that trauma experienced during adolescence has a different impact when trauma experienced during childhood. Early childhood onsets appear to result in more internalizing behaviors, withdrawal, depression, and self blame, whereas school age onset appears to result into more externalizing behaviors, such as acting out and etc. The brain goes through another period of rapid development during adolescence age. Similar to early childhood, the pruning of unused pathways increases. The brain, particularly the part of the brain that supports attention, concentration, reasoning, and advanced thinking, becomes more efficient as a result of this process. Adolescent trauma disrupts both the growth of this part of the brain and the reinforcing of the systems to allow the part of the brain to effectively communicate with the other systems. This can result in increased risk talking, risk taking, impulsive behavior, substance abuse, and criminality. Traumatic events leave a trail of reminders that can last for years and years and years and years. These recollections are associated with the aspects of the traumatic experience, its circumstances, and its aftermath. Persons, places, things, situations, anniversaries, or feelings such as renewed fear or sadness can serve as triggers for children. Physical reactions such as increased heart rate or bodily sensations can also serve as reminders. Understanding how and why children's distress, behavior, and functioning other fluctuate over time requires identifying children's responses to trauma and loss reminders. Reminders of trauma and loss can reverberate within families, among friends, in schools, and across communities in ways that have a powerful influence on children's families and communities' ability to recover. It is crucial to address trauma and loss reminders in order to improve ongoing adjustment. Children who have experienced a complex trauma frequently struggle to identify, express, and experience complex trauma frequently struggle in those regions. They have limited language for feeling states, and they frequently internalize and or externalize stress reactions, which can lead to a significant depression, anxiety, or anger. Their emotional reactions can be erratic or explosive. Trembling, anger, sadness, or avoidance may be displayed by a child in response to a reminder of a traumatic event. Reminders of various traumatic events may be everywhere in the environment for a child with a complex trauma history. When upset, such as a child may react frequently, violently, and have difficulty when calming down because interpersonal traumas are so common. Even mildly stressful interactions with others can serve as trauma reminders and elicit intense emotional responses. Children are often vigilant and guarded in their interactions with others and are more likely to perceive situations as stressful or dangerous. Having learned that the world is a dangerous place where even loved ones cannot be trusted to protect them. While this defensive posture is beneficial when an individual is being attacked, it becomes problematic in situations that do not necessitate such furious reactions. Many children, on the other hand, learn to tune out, or some may call it emotional numbing, to threats in their environment, leaving them vulnerable to revictimization. Children with complex trauma histories may struggle to think clearly, reason, or solve problems. They may be unable to plan ahead of time, predict the future, and act accordingly. When the children grow up in a constant state of danger, all of their internal resources have directed towards survival. When their bodies and minds have become accustomed to being in a chronic stress response mode, they may have difficulty thinking through a problem calmly and considering multiple alternatives. They may struggle to learn new skills or observe new information. They struggle to maintain attention or, I don't know, curiosity, you may say, or they may become distracted by reactions to trauma reminders. They may have problems with language development and abstract reasoning. Many children who have experienced complex trauma has learning disabilities that may necessitate academic assistance. A large number of children in America's society have experienced traumatic life events. A traumatic event is one that causes horror, terror, or helplessness all the time that it occurs, as well as threatens injury, death, or physical integrity of self or others, sexual abuse, physical abuse, domestic violence, community and school violence, medical trauma, motor vehicle accidents, acts of terrorism, war experiences, natural and man made disasters, suicides, and other traumatic losses are examples of traumatic events. More than two-thirds of children in community samples report having experienced a traumatic event by the age of 16 years old. Estimates of trauma exposure rates and subsequent psychological sequelae in children and youth, on the other hand, have varied dependent on this type of sample, type of measure, informant source, and other factors. Estimated rates of witnessing community violence range from 39% to 85%, which victimization rates reaching 66%. Sexual abuse, another common trauma, is estimated to affect 25 to 43% of young people. Youth disasters exposure to lower than other traumatic events. But when disasters strike, a large proportion of young people are affected. Whether it's varying by region and type of disaster, children and adolescents are likely to have made up a sizable proportion of the nearly 2.5 billion people affected by disasters worldwide over the last decade. Recovery can be impeded by individual and family factors. The severity of ongoing life stressors, community stress, prior trauma exposure, psychiatry comorbidities, and ongoing safety stress concerns. Also, poverty and racism can make this recovery much more difficult. Caretakers are affected by children's exposure to trauma, and their responses affect children's reactions to trauma. Well, on a positive note, individual, family, cultural, and community strengths can facilitate recovery and promote resilience. Social, community, and governmental support networks are critical for recovery, particularly when an entire community is affected. As when natural disasters occur, recognize the child's and family's cultural perspectives and perspectives on trauma, reactions on trauma, and the need for and type of intervention, because each child reacts to traumatic events in his or her own unique way. It is incredibly critical to listen to and try to understand the unique perspectives and concerns of children, as well as those of the family. Culture influences the meaning we assign to trauma and our expectations for recovery. Thus, attempting to comprehend the child's experience from the child's perspective, as well as the child's family and community, can aid in the direction of intervention efforts. Those who are unfamiliar with the mental health care may be hesitant to seek assistance and may require time to express their concerns about treatment before they are ready to seek it. Furthermore, children and families from ethnic and racial minority groups may face additional charges and challenges, such as limited access to mental health care services and a lack of awareness on the part of majority culture about the impact of racism and poverty on their experience on the traumatic events. Majority of children who are distressed as a result of trauma exposure and in need of assistance do not receive psychological treatment, and those who do receive a wide range of treatments. This is especially true for children from ethnic and racial minority groups and for recent immigrants who have less access to mental health services. Other professionals, like in school, healthcare settings, spiritual settings, and other service systems, can seek advice from mental health professionals on how to respond on trauma exposed children and other people, on youth, adolescents, and family. Mental health professionals can join disaster or emergency response teams in their community with special training and preparations. In areas where few mental health professionals have this type of training, psychologists can assist the development of training and supervision opportunities to strengthen the community's capacity to provide such care. So, how can you parent as an individual? Well, you can create a healthy environment for your child. Giving your child consistent responsibilities is an important foundation for your future success. Even small tasks like planning and preparing their snacks or lunches, sending holiday cards to friends and family, or cleaning the house allow them to take ownership, teach them how to complete the required task, and allow to you to correct their mistakes, choices, and along the way. Exposing a child to positive environment that includes positive role models, healthy food options, outdoor activities, and intriguing mental challenges will help them become more positive person. So now, ladies and gentlemen, and classmates, and sir, help your future little one throw away that dumb bear because they need you.